Generally, I go to the internet to get my graph paper. Let me open my browser first. The name of the website is blocklayer.com. This is a very interesting website. You have got a lot of practical calculators here. So there is something here called as a printable templates. If you go and look below in this section of printable templates, you will find something called as a graph paper dot paper printable. Okay, click it. Now once you click it, it will open up another page, and here you will find graph paper and the inch one is activated. If you want to print your graph paper on inch system, yeah, you can go ahead and do this. Otherwise, go ahead and click the graph paper itself. Once you click the graph paper, now you are in the metric system. And now here is a small calculator which you can use to generate a graph paper. The first one is the page size. Okay, so here you have your customary letter A4, A3, A2, So I usually select A4. Then you go for the margin. On the margin, initially let us put the margin to null, nothing. Also in the grid size, we will go for the biggest grid size, which is 10. And then we will simply say no to this option. Okay, scale also nothing. Color also, we'll just keep it as black. Then you have a choice whether you want to draw the lines or you just want the dots. I usually go for lines. Okay, and now when you look down, there it is. It has generated the graph. It has just given you a view of how exactly it is going to get printed. Now here there are two sliders. Okay, let's go for the bold, make it all the way down, and now you come to the main intensity. If you go all the way down, you're going to simply print a blank paper. But if you increase, you can see the lines are getting darker. You can go all the way up. So now the next thing is, let's keep the main intensity to something like somewhere in between, somewhere here. Okay, now what we are going to do is we are going to play around with the parameters here and see how it affects. Okay, right now you see the distance of each square, or the size of each square, is 10 millimeter. That's what you mean by grid size as 10 millimeter. Right now you see that it's a borderless, there is no border. So I can make border. All you do is you go for the margin. Now in the margin, let me put like 1 millimeter. You will see what's happening there. I'll go straight away for 5 millimeter. So that's your 5 millimeter margin. And I can go straight. Usually generally I put 10 millimeter. There it is. So now the margin is of 10 millimeter. Uncheck it. Okay, it won't make the border, but the border is still there. Okay, so when you print it out, okay, you will see a margin of 10 millimeter, but there is no border. But if you click the border, there you go. Okay, it tells you like that's the border of the paper. So basically border is only the border of the paper. It is something which is not going to get printed. The next important thing is the grid size. Now here I have selected 10 millimeter grid size. That means the size of each square is 10 millimeter. What if I change it, let's say, to 1 millimeter? Ooh, now you see each square is 1 millimeter, very small. Okay, really very small. So what usually you do is you keep the grid size as 1 millimeter, and now you have to say which square or which line you want to make it bold. Now I'll show you by example what it means. Let's say I will say every 10th square should be bold. When you do that, look what it does. If you look here, now each square is 1 millimeter and every 10th square is a bold line. So you get now two scales. One is a big box of 10 millimeter and a small box of 1 millimeter. I think this is how normally the commercially available graph papers are. when you get it from the store. Okay, right now you see it doesn't have any scale. If I say 1 is to 1, and there it is. So you see each square is 10 millimeter, okay, and it is displaying the 10 millimeter. So you will see 10, 20, 30, 40. Okay, what happens if I do it 1 is to 2? Oh, so every 10 millimeter is now plotted as 20 millimeter. That's what you mean by scaling. So I can go up to, let's say, 1 is to 5, that's 50 millimeter, or I can go 1 is to 10, that's 100. So depending on the data of your graph, what is the maximum size of your data or what is the minimum size of your data, you can accordingly change the scale here and get your graph printed as necessary. Now the second thing is the color. I go for the green color. This is a familiar one, but you have different options. For example, I can go red, I can go orange. So red looks nice. So yeah, usually I go green or I go red. Now again, now grid size is 1 millimeter. What if I change it to 2 millimeter? Oh, okay, there you see. And what I'll do is instead of every 10th, I'll make it every 5th. To keep the size of the bigger square same, I can change it. If I go again for 10th, you can see 200, 400. So it does the necessary changes as per your requirement. So this is a very like a dynamic graph paper generator. Now here, yeah, what does bold do? Now this is the main intensity. See, it increases the overall intensity. And what does the bold thing do? There you go. So I can go main intensity very little and I can go bold. The bigger squares gets bolder, but the smaller squares, you can control the intensity of the smaller square with this main intensity. There you go. You can make it completely disappear actually, or you can just make it slightly appear. And the bold, basically, there you go. You see? Now that's good. So you can change this way you want it. Okay. So usually what I do is I put the grid size to 1 millimeter, bold every 10 millimeter, scale that is decided by the data itself, and now it is red. Okay, so now you can press the calculate button if you want, but the most important is now you hit the create PDF button. Then it will ask you for the file name. I'll just keep it as it is, or you can just put whatever name you want and say okay. Now once you do that, there it is. It has now created a PDF file and it has already saved it in your download folder. Hit click, there it is. The file is open and now this file is ready to be printed. So if you have a printer at home, go ahead and print it out and use this graph paper to your heart's content. Thank you.